can do, continue to do, at least for now. And, if you look at the country, as I mentioned earlier, folks, a lot of the country is still basically God-fearing, constitutional, freedom-loving people. 50%, I would say. The other 50% have a different idea. They want a different America. They don't, they think that we've got it wrong.
Right.
We're the backwoods redneck yahoos who are not progressive. So that's the way that this is shaping up. So that's just the way we are. Basically, we're two countries within one now. Don't forget, Ronald Reagan won California and he won New York. He only lost Minnesota. That was 30 years ago. But that's how much our country's changed now, to where we're blue and red with a couple three swing states, basically a split, and they whoever wins those states, and President Obama decides who the president will be for all of us. But now, and I'm not saying, we understand as Christians that God is our Savior. We understand that. No Republican, even if he were elected, is going to be able to spiritually change America towards God. I think that, but that, as David Jeremiah said, that's not what we were looking for here. We were looking for a chief executive officer, a competent chief executive officer for the federal government, and a slight majority of Americans thought that the fella in the White House right now was the guy to go with, despite the fact that this is historical. Before I get into that, let me get into what we can do. Ed, we can continue as believers, obviously, to pray for our leaders. I would say get involved in politics at a local level, if you can, or state level, or at least support those candidates that stand for Christian values. I think you're going to see more attention by people towards their state government, and hopefully we'll have some governors fight back against the federal government on issues.
Right.
You can, we can, at least for now, continue to worship and build strong families, and evangelize and reach out, and so we can still do all those things right now. So we do need to continue to do those things in hopes that we can see some changes in our country politically. But as I said at the top of the broadcast, there's no way to put a happy face on what happened last night. America voted for the man from the party who booed God.
Right.
That's just a fact. And that's how much America has changed. To half of Americans, those moral issues, booing God, they're for that. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's hard for us, especially for those of us who live in areas of the country where that's unfathomable. That's considered, stand back and watch the lightning strike you. Well, no, in half of the country, that's where they are. So I don't know.
A couple of things, just as I've been thinking about this since last night. I think two things that Americans, conservatives, Christians need to do is they need to look long and look local. Okay, and by look long, I mean this America that we live in 2012 didn't occur overnight. I mean, the changes that we saw play out last night in votes, like regarding same-sex marriage, those changes began in the 1950s. So Americans and Christians need to start developing a vision for a long-term. Now Jesus may come back today, and it'll all be a moot point. But if we have another 100 years of of future for America. We need to be thinking about how you reconstruct a nation over the long term. And then I think, and maybe this is what you're alluding to, I would also look local. I would try to build the community in which I live, being actively involved in politics and in our church and outreach to try to build strong families, strong communities, and then work outward from there. Strong states with good leadership, people running for office. And then I think then you have a short-term vision and a long-term vision that says, well, we're not going to surrender America.
Right. Another aspect of this, folks, thinking about what happened last night and what it means, and what I'm about to say, I don't mean to scare you. Okay, I really don't. And we're not a people of fear as followers of Christ and believers in the Bible. But if somebody in Washington doesn't put the brakes on this borrowing money and printing money that the Federal Reserve is doing, that we're doing, it is going to bring our country to its knees. That's an inevitable fact of economics, and I'm no economist, okay? But I've read that debt report, most of it by Simpson Bowles. They said this is the most predictable financial calamity in the history of mankind. And it's going to happen unless America stops borrowing money. Right now we're borrowing 40 cents for every dollar that the federal government spends. Here's what was surprising to me a little bit is that, no, a lot. And quite frankly, Governor Romney did not make much of an issue of this, at least not enough, in my opinion, on the campaign trail and making this case with the American people. He did speak to the immediate economic needs and the problems we've been having, the unemployment and creating jobs and all those things. He did speak to that well, but we need somebody to look in the camera and say, "Listen to me, listen to me, people. We're going to be grease,
right,
if we don't stop." And I don't see anybody, John Boehner included, who's willing to say that. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not the Republicans control the House of Representatives. Thus, they control the purse strings. If John Boehner and the Republicans are not willing to put the brakes on, even to the point of saying that we will shut down government if we have to, they're not going to do that, I don't think. Nobody wants to shut down government. But I'm just saying, if the choice is between is scaling back government right now, and that would be painful to the immediate economy, that would be very painful. It might throw us into a recession.
Yeah,
I don't know if you had to really scale back on government spending right now, because even the states get government money.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, and this is the scary part, and I admit it is, and I don't mean to be fear-mongering here, but if what we're doing right now in America, our federal government, and the Republicans and the Democrats have both participated in this, although the Democrats way more than the Republicans in terms of, they don't even talk about scaling back spending, but they do talk about increasing taxes on wealthy people to pay for the spending, which is a pipe dream in itself. But that's what they argue.
Yeah.
But if nobody in Washington is willing to, in other words, if they raise this debt limit again, and they're going to, I'll say just do away with the debt ceiling altogether forever, and let's don't talk about it anymore, because it doesn't mean anything. If a ceiling's not a ceiling, it's not a ceiling.
Right.
So let's don't talk about it anymore. We don't have this debate. We'll just keep borrowing money. What
do you think about? What do you
but
think about the Republicans?
We can't keep borrowing. We can't keep. What I'm saying is, we're giving this quantitative easing and all this stuff. We're giving ourselves morphine. We have cancer in our body.
Yeah.
It needs to be excised.
Yeah.
But nobody in Washington, Republicans included, in my opinion, have the guts to tell the American people, we've got to, some of them do, we've got to stop borrowing money or we're not going to have a country anymore. Nobody wants to say that because that scares people, and then I may not win re-election next year.
What do you think of the Republicans, because we haven't had a budget in 3 years at least. What do you think if the Republicans come out after the first of the year and they say, here, the House of Representatives puts forth a budget, that's constitutionally mandated. We're putting forth the budget. Well, we're trying to reach out to our Democratic counterparts because we've got to do exactly what you said. We have got to stop this train wreck from happening. You know the Senate's not going to buy that. The president's not going to buy that. Once that happens, rather than the Republicans shutting down the government, which is political suicide, and I don't think anybody will do it, what if at that point, instead of shutting down the government, they say, okay, look, American people, we're going to talk straight with you. You voted for this president. You still, many of you, blame George Bush for the economy. We don't want you blaming us. You wanted this guy. You wanted the Democrats back in charge of the Senate. So we're letting them do whatever they want. We're going to abstain from votes in the House. You can vote whatever you want.
You own it.
You own it. So when this thing goes off a cliff, people wake up and they say, what happened? Then the Republicans in the House can say, the Democratic Party happened. We gave them what they wanted. They told us, shut down the government. We're not passing your budget if you want. And so now we're saying the ball's in your court. You want to continue deficit spending?
What are you suggesting? Just abstain at that point?
Yeah, you just abstain from votes. The Democrat, I don't know if you can. I guess you can, as long as there's a quorum. The Democrats carry the ball in the House, the Senate on fiscal issues only, and you say, look, you elected President Obama. He's going to lead you over the cliff.
I thought about the same thing last night. I was saying, you have to show that something doesn't work to the American people in order, and even if they show them that it doesn't.
They're still blaming George Bush.
Yeah, I know. So you. That's why I think it was let one party or another have at it. So the American people can see what works.
I mean, we know this is going to happen sooner or later.
Right.
So
I see your point.
Tie it around the neck of the Democrats and say you own it.
American people voted for you.
Yep.
And it's all yours.
Because what the Democrats are going to do is they're going to call the Republicans' bluff. And the Republicans will put forth some fiscal austerity
right now.
Austerity measures. And then the Democrats are going to say, no, we're not going to do that. You don't like it. Shut down the government. Which makes the Republicans the bad guy, and instead the Republicans say, oh, you want it?
The flip side of that is, Ed, the Republicans, I don't think have anything to lose, except the majority in the House. But I'm just saying, I think we're going to find out now if the Republicans are men of principle, or are they politicians like the rest of them? Because if you're men of principle, to me, you're going to say no to this borrowing.
Yeah, but you've got no way to make that happen. So what I'm saying, you're right. You stick to your principles. You put forth the budget. You go to the American people and say, "This is the medicine. This is the medicine we need, people." And then, if they shut down the government, then in 2 years they're going to get tossed out of office, and the Democrats are going to control both houses of Congress anyway. So this way, instead of being the bad guys who shut down the government, you say, look, we were trying to be the adults in the room. We put forth the first budget in the last 4 years, and they are stonewalling us. So you know what, folks, we want you to see the Democrats. I say we call the Democrats.
That hurts everybody, but we're going to get hurt anyway, is what you're saying. It's just a matter of when.
Rather than the Republicans being blamed.
Right. I see what you're saying.
You say, fine.
Yeah. That's I think that's a consideration given the fact that the American people, by 50% or 51%, did elect President Obama. And I think a majority of the American people last night basically said, keep on borrowing.
Right.
And I don't care. But see, that hurts. But the other 50% said, please stop because we've got to have our country.
How would we stop it, though? The Senate, Harry Reid, that guy is going to stonewall every Republican idea. It'll never even get to the president.
We last 4 years, again, I don't mean to be pessimistic, but the truth is we've borrowed $6 trillion the last 4 years. President Obama, and I've said this for 2 years, by virtue of throwing in the trash can the debt commission recommendations that came to his office 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
His own debt commission.
His own debt commission. Folks, President Obama does not care at all about spending us into oblivion. I don't think he cares at all. And now Now he has no accountability 4 years from now.
Right.
So one thing about it is you want to see some golf outings. He's about to set some records.
Right.
For golf, because nobody's going to be able to say, well, that'll hurt you in the next election.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to be back after the news on the radio or on the internet, one or the other. Take your calls a little bit later on at afr.net, afr.net.